G'day, everyone. Welcome back. It is a privilege and an honour to welcome Graham and Darren from Grimerica to the show. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you? Or good afternoon or good evening, whatever time it is. How are you, boys?
Hey, we're doing good. Yeah, thanks for having us.
No, thank
Hey,
you.
nice to be here. I think it's afternoon, I guess, mid-afternoon, late after. It's late afternoon probably.
Yeah, late afternoon for you guys, but it's morning for me. I'm from the future because, you want to be an Aussie podcaster, you got to get up early if you want to talk to the Northern Hemisphere. I am from the future, and it didn't get any better. Okay, we're still we're still in the same place. I was talking to the
It
guys.
must be like 8 a.m. there.
Yeah, yeah, 10 past 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it's winter here as well. So you guys are in t-shirts and I'm in a beanie. So we're in the reverse of each other. I was telling Darren and Graham that I'm a bit nervous for this one because I've been listening to Grimerica since before I started unlocking the code. You guys have been going 12 years. We've been going 8 years. And Grimerica was inspiration to do my own show. So thank you very much for coming on, and I really appreciate your time and making some time for unlocking the code. So
Our
where do we
pleasure.
s-
Yeah.
Anytime. Nice to be
mm,
here.
where do we start, gentlemen? Have you got a question? You got a question for me in Australia because you guys watch Sacred Site, the documentary. We could probably start there, and you guys are good friends of Loomis at Chan It Down. When you looked,
Well,
where did you want to start with that, boys? You got any questions
well,
surrounding?
yeah. I mean, I think the main thing that was really interesting to me about that, your piece in the with the Australian thing is we're looking at now all these cultures that were all over the world. It seemed like prior to the latest cataclysm, and Darren's even made like a map with sea level,
Mm-hmm.
showing like old sea level and stuff. So it's interesting to have that Australian, stuff that in Australia that really kind of brings in that whole side of the world to something that was going on prior. I think it's really coming out right now, all over the place with social media and work like you're doing. That there was something going on before that was more advanced than we thought. So that's kind of where we're at, or at least I'm at right now, is that we're in a sort of a season of reveal with all this, and they can't really keep the lid on it anymore because there's just too much evidence out there, physical evidence. Like,
Why?
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking about
Why?
like spiritual evidence, but physical stuff. What's that,
Mm-hmm.
Darren?
Why does Zuck need three boats? Dude's got like a $500 billion yacht, or maybe a $500 million yacht, and then two crazy support vehicles with like helicopters and like who knows what else on there. It's like, why do you need all this stuff? What do you need
Yeah,
like
what are
an
you building?
ocean armada for? It's like
What are you building the underground bunkers for? What's going on here? Why?
I mean, a floating bunker ain't a terrible idea either.
That's true. That's well. Look,
As long as you can survive the initial shuffle. I mean, I got a boat. Maybe we could just hop in the boat when the float waters come and just hope for the best. I'm like, as near as I can tell, I should be at like the tail end of the water if it's going to go in the direction I think it's going to go in this time. So I might actually be able to but it'll just be sort of coming up. It'll have lost most of its momentum by the time it gets here, hopefully, if the water gets here and I could just like sit in the boat and then ride the wave into the Rockies.
well, I mean, there's a couple of things there. So, firstly, I think for myself here in Australia, when because like yes, I've been doing the show for 8 years. However, I've been a lifelong researcher into the megalith stuff. I've been obsessed with it since I was a little boy, and once you get over all the pretty pyramids, pretty standing stones, and all that sort of stuff. You start see my profession outside of podcasting is I'm a logistics specialist. I specialised in logistics, so I think about things logistically. And then when I started looking around the world, and as you said, Graham, it's a global thing. This is not an individual, isolated societies. This is a global thing. And what I realised is that there was a massive Australia-sized hole in the puzzle, and it's well, there isn't. Okay, so look, behind me up here, you can see that's the imprint. That's one of the OOP art that we found. We call it an out of place artifact because it doesn't make sense as to what it actually is. And you got to remember too that as far as we understand it, Australia has one of the oldest cultures on the planet in, ongoing cultures. And then the other thought that I had when we talk about the flood, Darren, is like, if it did hit, so let's say, I'd love to talk to you guys about your trips with Randall and stuff like that. Maybe we'll get to that today. Maybe we won't. What it looks like in the Scablands and all that sort of stuff. However, if the water hit the northern hemisphere, where's the safest place? Where would have been the safest place on the planet at that time? Let's say 12,800 years ago during the Cataclysm. Australia would have been one of the safest places because of the size of the continent, how big it is, and how far removed it actually was from that cataclysm, you know? And so I
think
started.
parts of Australia.
Yeah, parts. Well, and this is.
It looks to me, when you look at the maps, at least, that Australia got fucked up west to east. Like bad. Now, so part of me would thinks that Australia and North America got it the worst.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because we're the places where, you find some out of place artifacts like you've got there, but we don't have like these pyramids like they got in Mexico. We're finding stuff all over South America. We got Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. We got Egypt over there. I don't know what the Riyadh structure was in Africa. Maybe there's something there. The Sahara seems to have got fucked up pretty bad too. But you don't find that kind of stuff. And maybe you could correct me on this because I could be just ignorant of it, but you don't seem to find that stuff. You definitely don't find it here. Here you just find, some stuff that would be like the same as there, where we got the Indians that were around after, and there's some medicine wheels and there's some stuff like that. But I think that's just like the people who just that managed to just eke out, because North America, you can just drive around North America all over the place. I haven't seen it all yet, but I've seen like half of it. We're gonna start seeing some of the Eastern stuff next year. Go see the Finger Lakes in New York and look at that kind of stuff. But I've got a pretty good handle on the west side of stuff by now, at least some of it. And it's just sort of I forget where I was going with this now, but it's just,
I think what you're trying to get
got trashed, but we got fucked right up over here. And I think that a lot of places got fucked up, but I think that the places where you do find the pyramid and stuff like that, where you find that stuff, it was in that spot that maybe you're talking about, where there was a chance that people could have hung on there, just because the pyramids didn't get knocked over. Which I
think the difference
is that if there was pyramids here in Australia, they got wiped the fuck out.
Well, no, or the difference is that we were covered in ice. So apparently, like, we were covered in ice for how long? 30,000 years, 40,000 years prior to the Younger Dryas. So I don't think Australia was. So I mean, that's where I see the difference being, like, we are more of a fresh, from my perspective, whatever cataclysm you're talking about, we were still covered in ice during the Younger Dryas, and we're kind of fresh because of that.
The thing
So
is,
I guess when I say North America, I'm meaning more like USA and Mexico.
Yeah, of course.
That's where the ice was. I mean, my thought exactly is that the center of the Laurentide ice sheet was the North Pole. Straight up. I mean, magnetic north is running away from Hudson Bay, which was the center of the Laurentide ice sheet, which makes perfect sense if it's like recorrecting back to it looks like it's heading into Siberia, which would be an overcorrection now over the top and going the other way. But magnetic north, in my opinion, is coming from where geographic north used to be. And I mean, how else do you get the center of this giant ice sheet to be in the center of Hudson's Bay and not up further north? I mean, I think that this shit's it. And I think there's also a bunch of evidence of that, because now I'm going to mix this up. East Antarctica is growing while West Antarctica is shrinking. And I think that's because that oscillation switched which part of Antarctica. Now, it wasn't far enough for Antarctica to leave completely being the South Pole, but it was enough to slip it a little bit.
I've got the globe. I'm in the sanctum. I've got multiple sets, right? My little globes on the other side. I did so two things about the ice, right? And I'll come back to Australia, but the ice chases the poles, gentlemen, right? So it's not the reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the poles were converging, weren't they? They're trying to meet each other. They're not actually going like that. They're actually, I think they're, I'll correct me, I don't know whether that's true. The research that I
don't
did.
know about that. I only watched the north one, and I know the
Yeah.
north one to me looks like it's leaving exactly where the center of a giant ice sheet used to be.
Well, what's happening down here is the south one's running away from us. It's going underneath us, and as a result of that, the ice chases the poles. So one of the thoughts I had about the ice, because I've thought about the ice sheet over North America, the fact that it was 2 miles high, all those sorts of things, right? And then you've
Which
got these.
is just like Antarctica is right now. So I
Mhm,
think that's what happens as soon as you get land. I think it moves around a little bit, and if you've
mhm,
got ocean there, you get an extended period of stable climate,
mm,
and that's because that the ocean just acts as a buffer. So if you could end up with both poles at the ocean, you might be able to keep civilization going for a long time. That might be what they were talking about when they talk about this golden age that is longer than, because you see all these ancient cycles of catastrophe, but they all have this like golden age where you get a little bit longer.
mm,
And I think that's what happens if it slips, the crust slips in such a way so that you have water on each side. Because what you see at the North Pole is you don't have a crazy ice cap because the
mm,
ocean just it's like gets to like 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet thick, maybe 100,
mm,
and that's about it.
mm,
Whereas Antarctica and when in North America, you get ice that's 2 fucking miles thick.
mm.
And I think that's what happens when you get a bunch of ice at the pole. And I think if you end up in a situation where you've got land at both poles, it becomes critically unstable. And so you get a
Well,
shorter period of
and
time
you've got a
around.
weight. There's a weight issue there as well with the ice
There's
over
a
land.
crazy weight.
But if you so where the Laurentide ice sheet
And
is,
so that's the other huge factor. I mean, you just hit on it. So the other major thing is even if you do get a giant ice sheet at the North Pole, the ocean is distributing its weight all over the
mhm,
entire planet because the ocean is buffering the weight. So it's adding weight to the ocean, which is weighing on everything.
mm,
When you make that fucking ice on land, you're adding a shit ton of weight to the crust, and I think it becomes unstable. And if you have two land masses on each pole, I think you get a short cycle. If you get a 50-50, you get a
mm.
medium cycle. And if you get double water, you get maybe 20,000 years if you're lucky. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember the numbers in those ancient cycles
Mm.
um,
Well, it's
enough because we
the two
on it,
major
but I think
ones.
that's it.
Yeah, the two. So Australia. So the two major ones. So you got to remember, 70,000 years ago was the big reset where the humans got down to 10,000 or whatever. That was the Sumatran volcanoes. That was only just north of me, right? So that's like literally 3 hours off the north tip of Australia is where that let go. Um, and the other thing about the cataclysm down here, you know, the mini ice age that assisted the fall of the Roman Empire, I think it was 563 BC. There's non insignificant evidence, and I did a podcast on it years ago. There's been a paper being written and stories of indigenous that actually there was a double impact in the Gulf of Carpentaria here in Australia. So I think when it comes to cataclysm, how many have there been really is a good question, right? But with the ice, so the Laurentide ice sheet, the stuff over North America, what I did is I looked at the globe. And so if the massive weight of the ice is pretty much North America, so then you get one of your arrows, Darren, and you go straight through the planet. Basically, that means the ice was in the water on the backside of Antarctica, or even potentially not in Antarctica at all. So
Exactly. And
yeah,
that's the side of Antarctica that is now shrinking while the other side is getting bigger, which I
mm,
think just lends more evidence to that. And then you just got to watch when you do North America that it's like, I mean, I would center your arrow on Hudson's Bay. I think Hudson's Bay is close to the epicenter of the ice
mm.
sheet.
And you know, one of the reasons that the climate narrative went from the ice is melting, because it's not, right? It's not. The ice chases the poles. Wherever the pole is, the ice is getting thicker. And I had a crazy idea, boys, that imagine, what if sometime in the past the poles were on the equator, right? Because that's actually what governs our geomagnetic field is where the poles are. It doesn't matter, it's not about having that's the middle, so that's the hottest. It's about where the geomagnetic field is weakest. So there might have been a time where the current equator had the magnetic poles horizontally, right? And I think, and again, what are we talking about as far as cataclysm is concerned? It's fascinating too. What I wonder is with the impact proxies into the ice sheet in the north, what did that do to the magnetic field? I think, as you guys know as well, there's this ongoing discussion. Are we talking about impact proxies? Are we talking about solar flares? What are we talking about? I would
Well, why
say
not both? I mean,
that's
if
exactly
you
right.
have two giant comets hit into the ice
Hmm.
sheet in North America, and they're sort of coming from the north when they hit it, that might be the impacts might be what shifts the crust.
It shifts the
I mean,
crust,
it could be
causes
both. I think
volcanic.
if
Yeah.
you can get a weight issue, which is going to become unstable.
Yeah,
You could have a crazy,
isostate compression.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you could have a
yeah.
crazy volcanic eruption that could cause things to slip around a little bit, and you can have big impacts. I think probably cause the thing to slip around a little bit
Mm,
because
And
it's
don't forget about the vibration that runs through the planet from the impact itself. You know
yeah.
what I mean? I think there's that
So
to
the
take
whole
into
thing just
account as well.
ripples around, and then
Mhm.
everything's like 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles away from where you. I think that I'm further and further. My belief is that I don't know if it's a time slip or what it is, but I think that the Earth's crust relation to the mantle underneath is not as stable as we think, and different things can disrupt it.
I agree. What do you reckon,
Including
Graham?
maybe out of the blue. I mean, that's the scary one, is that it might just like fucking oh.
I could just slip as well. Yeah, I don't think we understand. But what are your thoughts on this stuff, Graham?
Oh yeah, it's very much the same. I mean, it just depends on what kind of cataclysm we're talking about. Like, because there is
Exactly.
the younger dryas, there's the pole shifts, there's the crustal displacements. Like, I think there's been a multitude of them happening.
Mm,
There's the eruptions like Toba, the one you're talking about. I think it was Toba.
mm.
Um, so those are massive global cataclysms. But when you're talking about, I think the big one is not even the younger dryas; it's the pole shift. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the whole Earth, the whole pole slipping to a whole other area, which just makes the ocean run over the land. I mean, it's like basically you're just like sloshing the crust underneath the water kind of thing.
Mm.
So I think that's probably the regular cycle would be that one, and then there's all these other cycles that overlap and go beyond it, and maybe there's a bunch that aren't even in a cycle, like the Toba eruption. Maybe that's just
That
on
just
its own
happens. Yeah.
on its own thing. It just happens. So I
Just
think we're
that
dealing with.
everything is just a blink of an eye to us. Like all
Mm.
of human existence is a blink of an eye. I mean, 10,000 years, we can't even fathom that. We
No.
we can't even fathom that. That is so far into the past that it's just like, who knows if so something crazy could happen every 10,000 years and we would just,
Oh,
we'd never ever get the fucking gist of it. We'd never figure, I don't feel if it's 10,000 years might be that like number, or even 13 if it's like half of a procession.
mm. Well, I
It's
was going to
just
say
enough
about the
that the
procession,
chances
right?
of getting
Yeah.
there are fucking slim to none. Like there's just enough time that you can start fit like, and there's evidence to me that the last go around was starting to knew it was coming.
Mm.
I mean, I go back and forth on whether Göbekli Tepe was actually, no, that's not true. I used to go back and forth on whether or not Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried, but then I noticed that they had actually done stonework around some stuff to protect it, so they had done like almost like a casework
Yeah,
around some of the stuff.
preparation. There was preparation before but again, look, I love this, boys. We're bouncing around. This is what we do at UTC as well because I just wanted to show you some Aussie stuff. The I think looking at everything, number one, I do think the reason I wonder. Well, I had a good chat with another Aussie guy. We've got a bit of a megalithic discussion going on, and we were talking about the fact that we think a lot of these sites are. I think they're mapping cataclysm amongst other things, right? They're mapping the equinoxes. They're mapping these are multi-level, multifaceted sites, and I think the cycle of the equinox exists because every now and again giant rocks come out of the sky, right? We think about what is Armageddon, in the Bible, and the giant flood. And I think it's D all the above, right? I think rocks into the crust, displacing water, volcanics, which upsets the magnetics, which allows solar flares through, and just unbelievable. We have got no idea what that's like. We can't even fathom what truly happened. But I think it's a D all the above scenario. However, the global nature to what's going on is also interesting in some of the connections, right? So I just wanted to show you guys this. So this is the Wizard of Wagaya, great medicine man of Central Australia. right? Notice the symbols on his body there. And then speaking of Göbekli Tepe, there's Göbekli Tepe, right? Now, you know the vulture stone? The vulture stone, everyone knows the vulture stone that basically, Sweatman and Sidricus, they said that it shows the last cataclysm. I don't have that
What
slide
does
here.
that mean? Do we
It's
know
it,
what that symbol you're looking at means?
well, it's part of the medicine man symbol, right? So he has this symbol on him. He's the only one that can have that on him, right? It'd either be a tribal symbol or it relates to the fact that he is the medicine man. You would identify him by his symbol, and during corroboree, he would paint his body like that, or he may paint his body like that in general. Depends on the thing in Australia with the tribes. They're very different and very similar all over Australia. So the meaning that might be in Central Australia, it might be different on the coast. So it depends. But the vulture stone and the bird with the sun and all that sort of stuff. I imagine you boys are like me. I've got 400 folders of research, and I couldn't bring up everything this morning. Right. However, I've got a picture that shows the vulture, pretty much the vulture stone in Göbekli Tepe, and art in Arnhem Land found in cave art, and it looks pretty much the same. Um, I think what I like to call these boys, I like to call them echoes. Right, these are echoes, and I think what we're looking at is echoes from around the planet. And unfortunately, Graham was asking about Australia. There's no other way to put it. The British did a very, very good job. They were very brutal when they came here, and it is almost like they came here looking for something as well. We could talk about who actually founded Australia, which potentially the Dutch, and maybe before that, there's a big conversation about that as well. However, the story goes that the British that came here, Captain Cook and his cronies, they were number one, they were masons of the highest order. They understood the international language, they understood the language of symbols, and the indigenous down here understood the language of symbols as well. And there's a lot of stories of them going into the interior looking for things. And again, I come back to not necessarily the coastlines of Australia, because Darren is right in if you look at the coastlands of WA, there's big, massive chevrons along the coastlines. There's definitely been tidal waves that have hit in WA. There's evidence that double impact I talked about in the Gulf of Carpentaria. You can actually see the drawback of where those tidal waves hit still, because there's not much up there. However, the interior of Australia is not only on the east coast are we protected by a massive mountain range. If you get over that mountain range, it's plains forever basically. So I do wonder. And as far as pyramids are concerned, I think about Teotihuacan,
How
right?
flat are the plains?
Very flat. It depends on where you are. Very flat. Yeah, very flat. Once you get
Yeah,
over the hill,
that's the kind of
very
stuff
flat.
that I would almost bet money was made by an ice sheet one day.
Potentially, yeah, potentially. And look,
I think
we've got a
that's what really flattens the shit out is when the ice is on it.
and we've got Lake Air as well. So we've got a lake that yeah, I'll stop share that. I'm going to bring some others. I'll find some other things. We don't need to go through. This is one of the presentations I did a little while ago. um, so basically, in Australia, there is. They said that they pushed a pyramid into the ocean in World War II. There was a pyramid basically 3 or 4 hours north of me, and they pushed a pyramid into the ocean, a basic stone pyramid. I've been to the Gympie Pyramid site. In fact, my team was the last ones that were on the ground there before they bulldozed half of it. Uh, and there's some interesting stuff there as well. And, I could show you. Oh, here you go, boys. You like this one. So, pop quiz. Where is this? Where would you say that is?
Egypt.
Mm. What do you reckon, Graham? If I didn't tell, where would you say that is? Your mic's off, mate.
Yeah, South America maybe.
2 hours north of me.
Wow.
in Queensland. There is a polygonal masonry wall that is surrounded by a church in a place called Gympie, Australia. And this is, it basically surrounds the church. Now, this was a Depression era project that was moved. This wall was moved, and you can see it's not quite, oh, that's the Gympie Pyramid. But if you look,
It's that corner piece that really does it.
it's the corner piece that does it.
And that corner piece there, and that other corner piece there. So they obviously put the corner pieces back where they
yeah, they were very specific with the corner pieces. And the thing is, if you start walking along this wall here, you can see it's been rough, right? It's rough, but it's been moved. So the story goes that a wealthy business owner moved this wall from somewhere, no one knows where. Technically, they say the Gympie Pyramid. However, the evidence for that's a bit thin on the ground, and they moved it there. And you walk around this wall, and like this would have been perfect at some point. You got to remember this has been moved by horse and cart. It's been dismantled and then put back together again, right? So there was
Oh yeah, when you're throwing those stones around, they're banging off each other and chipping and
yeah, absolutely. And some of them as well. I mean, this one's pretty impressive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stones to put this one in here, right? So it is true polygonal masonry. And it's just around this random small church in a small gold town 2 hours north of me. And it's like, what is that? You know, and one of the biggest posts I ever had on Instagram before I got cancelled in 22 was me putting that on there and going, pop quiz, where's this? And then going Queensland, Australia, and everyone going, what? You know?
yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. Because it's like these echoes, they are here. They are here. So this is what they call Jaki Kundu or the Gympie Pyramid, but it's not. You can sort of see that's an old aerial photo. It's a rocky ridge, but you can see from the front it does have a pyramidal shape, but it's not a pyramid. This is so if you were to go there now, basically split this in half, that half is now a highway. They bulldozed it. We were the last field team on the ground there. We took ground penetrating radar there. We took a lot of photos. The cool thing I wanted to show you, because I know you guys are in this as well, this was probably one of the most interesting things that I found. And I called it the preparation stone because with the echoes of polygonal masonry, and I know you guys talk about the, and you've talked about how did they melt stone? How did they cut and move stone? And there's the rumor of that acid from South America, right? That can melt stone. And one of the ingredients for that acid that can melt stone is prickly pear. Now, prickly pear was all over the Gympie Pyramid, everywhere. It was like a weed growing all over it. And I found this, the preparation stone, right? So you can see there's a little hatchet there. If you look, you can almost see, I can probably, there you go. You can see the striations in the stone here, right? They've actually tried to prepare something in this part of the stone that looks like it's melted it, right? They've prepared something there. And then you can see if you go up, this is where they've sharpened the tool, right? You can see that's where they've sharpened the tool. And then if you go, and here's where they cut a piece. Here's where they tested it, right? So there's the striations. I think that's where they maybe prepared the fluid. This is where they've sharpened their tools. And that is where they've taken a piece to test. And I wonder, what are we looking at there? Is that a South American echo? Because what did they love in South America, gentlemen? They loved gold, didn't they? There was gold. There was alluvial gold, which is gold just found on the ground in Gympie in the 1800s, right? So there's been gold. Australia is known for its gold. And the other thing about all these ancient cultures and stuff as well is that they talk about a great land to the south. Now, some people think that's Antarctica. Why is it not Australia? You know, it's a big giant piece of land that everyone's like, oh no, there's just a giant Australia-sized hole. Well, like I said before we started, boys, well, I'm a flat Earth shill. I'm employed by NASA. We're not actually real. Australia doesn't exist. But these are some of the echoes, and so I think down here is we're chasing echoes, is what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
What kind of rock is that? Is it pretty
Limestone.
hard?
It's a type of limestone. Yeah. Um, yeah. This was another one. Just looks like it's been cut out of the stone. Right. That means
Yeah,
looks
you
like
can see the overcut even.
yeah. There's a block that's been cut out of there. Right. But again, it's like a section out of the stone. It's like they've slotted it out. I know you guys have asked these questions. How? How do you take a chunk of stone out? Right? You don't just do that. That's not something that just happens. And here's one that we just found on the ground there. And that looks shaped to me. It's not perfect. Um, and what's curious about Gympie as well is that they have there's all these echoes. Like they've got the polygonal masonry wall around the church, which is the good piece, and then all around Gympie, people have tried to replicate polygonal masonry poorly, very very poorly. However, it's there as an echo, just in a random small town 2 hours north of Brisbane, which you
Well, I
just
mean,
wouldn't.
you're not far. You're not far from, the Java Sea and all the, what's the other word I'm looking for? The Sunderland, right? I mean, really, you're right next door. If you take away 400 feet of water, you pretty much connected with all that ancient history from the north,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah, absolutely. If you took away 400 feet of water, we'd be connected to Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or you
Close enough to just close enough to be that someone would see it. On a,
absolutely. Well, on a clear day, you can almost see PNG from the tip of Cape York. On a clear day, on a very clear day, you can almost see it. And well, this is a bit of a different story. That's Australopithecus. This is what I wanted to show you guys. This is Australia's Stonehenge. Okay, this is a computer rendition, obviously. This one on the top here, though, these are survey documents. Okay. So Australia's Stonehenge was discovered on a dairy farm in Mullumbimby in Eastern Australia, and it was bulldozed in 1946. Okay. See, one of the reasons, boys, we can't find a lot down here is, let's say, Darren, Graham, you guys stole a loaf of bread and they sent you to Australia. How dare you try and feed your family? Like, that's how it went, right? But let's pretend you were well behaved when you came down here as a convict, and you broke the rocks and you did the thing. I'm gonna give you a piece of land. Okay. I'm gonna give you a piece of land that you can farm, you can raise sheep, you can whatever you want to do. Now, if you find any indigenous artifacts on that, we're going to take your land back because it's historical. So what did they do? They didn't say anything. Like,
Yeah.
they just knocked it down. They just bulldozed it, or whatever was there. They made it disappear. And that's the reason we're dealing with such little evidence. Okay. But you said the medicine wheel earlier, Darren. Look at that. There's two medicine wheels. Now, this was bulldozed, like I said, in 1946, just after World War II. See these seven stones in the middle? I got the seven stones in the middle. If I was to say seven stones, what would you boys say? What do you reckon? Seven stones,
Seven sisters,
seven
seven wisdom
sisters.
teachers,
Yeah,
seven. Yeah.
yeah, seven sisters, the Pleiades. Yeah. So that is the creation myth down here as well. The three brothers of Orion, the seven sisters of the Pleiades got chased by the three brothers of Orion across the stars to Australia, and then the Palladians modified a hominin that existed here and created humans, basically. And that is the original creation story here in Australia as well. And this is on the easternmost point of Australia. Now, unfortunately, none of this exists anymore. I am doing some other research, and there is some stuff that I can't share right now with that. I'm not allowed to share, which I have to respect that because I'm working with the Indigenous on that. However, as soon as I can, I will, about this site, because basically they're trying to regain access to the site, because it's an active dairy farm right now. Yeah, and like in Australia, we don't have public land. Basically, it's your land, it's your land. And like I said about pyramids before, I think about Teotihuacan and the fact that Teotihuacan was a hill, looked like a hill, 200 years ago. There is when we go hunting, I do a bit of bow hunting as well, Darren. So when we go hunting, we play a game called Spot the Pyramid, right? And it's like we've seen probably 4 or 5 hills here in Australia that are just random in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, geez, that looks, let's go and get a shovel and just see if we can keep digging and see if we hit stone, because it's like I think the echoes are here, but I do think the British were very, very efficient at what they did in destroying. And the thing is, too, the Indigenous down here were much more advanced than anyone knows, even here in Australia. You go digging into old explorer books. They had agriculture. They had fields of wheat. They had not city centres, but places of meeting and trade with stone huts and stone circles and all that stuff. And the thing is, you go where Mullumbimby is, where this Stonehenge is. You go down there, and there's stone circles. There's standing stones everywhere. Right? Oh, there's a good computer rendition of it. A good friend of mine, Richard Patterson, he found this stuff. Actually, you guys will like this. He found it like Indiana Jones style. He was working in the Mullumbimby National Museum, the museum there, the local museum, and hidden behind a bookcase in a weird ass packet was these survey documents. And it's like I think about this. Go, if he wasn't there on that day, like how we wouldn't know that this place even existed. But if you go down there, this is within 5 kilometres, so 3 miles of Mullumbimby. There's standing stones everywhere. Now, don't freak out about this one. These guys here, actually, this is interesting. So this is all basalt. A lot of this stuff is basalt, right? So column of basalt. These are on a massive property, and there's all these standing stones, and we walked that property, me and Richard. And I don't think all of them, I think some of them were already there. And I couldn't get an interview with the guy, the original guy who did this. He's getting quite old now, and he doesn't like people, which, I understand. However, Richard spoke to him for a little while and asked him why did he build stone circles on his land and where did he get the stone from? And his matter-of-fact answer was, the stones told me to put them back up. They were already here. So someone had knocked them down, and they said, they wanted to be stood up again. So they went around and systematically knocked all these stone circles down. And there's all these stories of stone circles being knocked down for highways and all that stuff. And it's, so if we theoretically, and we don't, I can't say that conclusively. However, Australia's Stonehenge, not only is it larger, but it's potentially older than Stonehenge. So, but we don't know because it's.
Is there more celestial symbolism or constellatory symbolism in those other rocks around the Pleiades? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, we're looking, as far as we understand it, if you imagine this was a journey from dark to light, okay, as we've been told. So you would start here at night, and you would spend the entire night working through each of these stone arrangements, and the coloured ones here, like a red and green and stuff like that. Potentially, these were crystal, massive bits of quartz or something like that, and you would work your way in through a ritual from the dark, and by the time you got to dawn, you would be in the light. And it was a sacred ceremony from one to the other, and in the middle was the seven sisters, and here's something, gentlemen: if you draw a straight line from these seven stones across the ocean, you end up at Easter Island.
Nice.
All right, so they are looking; those sentinels, those seven sisters, were staring at Easter Island across the ocean. If you draw a straight line,
Is there any evidence that they were Moais?
we don't know. We don't know. As I say, there's more research that's being done in this area that I can't share right now, and there's more story that I'm going to be shared with. There's also a language, they call it the Murray Guelder, which is the indigenous language of symbols, which was dead for they don't know how long. However, through some research of a guy that I know, Colin, and he's been working with the Indigenous down here, they've recreated it. So we'll actually be able to read the Indigenous symbol language now. Um, and it's almost like hieroglyphs or pictographs as well. It's very fascinating, the symbols and stuff that they were using. And yeah, I it's crazy stuff, and this is probably one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't know about is Australia's Stonehenge. And yeah, I've been down there. I've been down there. I've seen the site, and I got excited about this one because that's massive, and then I realised no, someone told me they put that up there. um, they didn't do this one though. They find these everywhere through the outback, just these random standing stones. Now, whether they were markers or whether they were, this is the right way or whatever you're doing, this is like a photo from the 1800s where they just found standing stones in the middle of the outback. Um, but yeah, that's the imprint. I can stop share there for a second. I'll come back to that. But Australia has a story to tell. The other big part of the research, obviously, you guys can see my Rosetta Stone there, is the Gosford glyphs as well. So I've been down doing work at Gosford as well. So, and the Gosford glyphs tell a story of the Egyptians coming to Australia, and they were probably coming to Australia's Stonehenge, boys. That's what they were doing. That's what they were coming to. You know, um, it's you boys got any thoughts or questions about that?
Yeah, I'd like to know if those are I mean, it's hard to know because that all that stuff that's close to the water must have got pretty trashed, and I think the Moais are probably pre-diluvian.
Mm, mm.
Antediluvian? Is it antediluvian?
Yeah, I'm not too sure which way it works. I can ask
Anthony.
though. I can ask though. I know that Moai is an interesting thing to draw the connection, but I do know that basically the seven sisters were staring across the ocean at Easter Island, which and I know that
I'll have to start looking at some of them, like the ones around Easter Island that would have been poking out of the water a little while ago, and see if there's any Moais down on that.
I can. Well, there's more carvings and stuff down there. Look, unfortunately, because the job has been so total down here, you can imagine that the Indigenous down here aren't very open to sharing some of their stuff. You've got to do a fair bit of work and sitting with them, and there's a lot of necessary hoops to jump through before you can get some of the stuff that they have found that they haven't shared. So I definitely will ask that for you guys because I know. Well, I mean, you guys are doing trips to Easter Island. But or Graham, have you got any questions about the Stonehenge, mate? And maybe I want to hear about what you guys do with the trips.
No. Darren can go on with the trip.
Mm. So
Yeah,
you,
we're doing one at least anyway. We'll see how that goes and
mm,
take it from. But we're doing at least one. We're going next March 20th, I think.
20th of March. Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
for 8 days. So 7 days on the island. We'll see all the sights and do a few hikes and get to immerse ourselves in everything there.
So where do you bounce into from there? So you go from America
Out of Santiago.
out of Santiago. Okay.
Yeah, you
You have to go
have to
to
go.
Chile. Basically, you have to go to Chile and then go out from Chile.
Yeah, right. So you've got to get to Chile and then bounce from there to go across. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that there's no customs in Rapa Nui.
Mm. I mean, what do you think about the Rongo Rongo, that language as well? That's very fascinating. I've been looking at that sort of stuff. I mean, there's all these dead languages, isn't there? It's like you can only imagine what they actually are saying. You can only imagine what they're talking about.
Yeah, and who knows if we even have some of the ones we've deciphered right. Like, I don't know that they really know what they're talking about with all of that hieroglyph stuff in Egypt, even. That could be a whole different language. I mean, it's
Well,
going to
look,
be interesting if
the
computers get
only
smart.
the only
Figure it
reason
out.
we know is because of that, the Rosetta Stone. Like all our knowledge of hieroglyphs comes from that. That's how we figured it out. But it's interesting. But yeah, there's the Australia sized hole is is getting filled in, you know, and I think it's as Loomis and I were discussing it. It's like yes, I desperately want to go to Easter Island. I have a vision of me standing in front of the Great Pyramid. I want to go Göbekli Tepe. I want to see these major sites. But there's something also very cool about being down under and finding stuff that no one has seen because of I mean, you guys would know the explosion in these topics. Like even when I started 8 years ago, number one, there was no really podcasts here in Australia. And number two, it seems like half the world is into megaliths now, whereas that never used to be. You know what I mean? Like it's the amount of reels and stuff that you see every day. It's now everybody's into it. So a lot of these places are now tourist destinations as opposed to research destinations. And I think there's something very cool about doing some stuff that it's rare now that no one knows about. You know?
Totally.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was like doing the Scabland stuff with Randall, really, is
Yeah.
a lot of people hadn't really heard about it till he was on Rogan, and then when you really go to the Scablands in person with him, it's like it's pretty mind blowing when the way he describes the floodwaters coming through with the volume from up north. It's not really questioned even from mainstream science. I mean, his hypothesis is very close to the mainstream one. Really, there's a few differences, a few major differences, but
Mm.
other than that, it's like we all know there was ice up there and it melted. It's just like
Yeah.
which way did it go, basically.
Mm. And we were,
And
I
how it
mean,
melts.
how did it? I mean, but those ripples in the Scablands, like they're like 40 feet high. Is that correct? Like, 'cause I've heard him talk about it, but what's it like being there? Like you're looking at a hill, and then you realize with a drone that it's actually a receding of water. You know what I mean? Like, is that it must be insane. The
Yeah,
magnitude of that
drone.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
The magnitude is what gets me. You know, like, and I honestly, gents, I have. I'm like, how can I go to America and join the Grimerica boys on the Randall tours? You know what I mean? Because I just want to be able to see that stuff because it seems to be yeah the cataclysm is unbelievable, isn't it? You know, like the level of it and the devastation and what is Randall like in person? Is what it is? Like is what you see is what you get? Is that with how you see him on different shows and stuff? Or
He's super chill.
mm, mm.
Way more chill than you think. I mean, that you can't think he's chill enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, got a
Because
good sense of humor.
Interesting
Yeah.
now because he's getting recognized all the time. Like multiple times per tour now, someone's coming up and recognizing him. So he's adjusting to that. He seems to like it most of the time.
oh, that's good. That's good. Because I mean, I've often wondered where would we be without guys like him and Graham and those because all those guys are getting older now. You know, Robert Bivall, John Anthony West is no longer with us. Like Robert Schock is getting older. All these guys, they're getting older, and we would not be anywhere without them. You know, we're standing on their shoulders in a lot of ways, aren't we? Trying to keep this research and propelling it forward. Um, I suppose I had a question for you guys. It'd probably be a bit of a difficult one. What's the most? So you're 12 years in. You've been talking about these topics. By the way, I didn't realize. I only just got onto your Outlawed show. You guys are like 1,100 shows in. Bloody hell, boys.
Yeah.
That's insane. I because I was catching up. I thought I better, I like, oh, hang on, what's this other Grimerica Outlawed? Oh, that's the conspiracy one. Okay, cool. All right. Uh, I didn't realize you'd separated the two. Um, what would you say? What's blown your mind the most recently? Because I mean, you guys have been in this. You've been in the trenches for 12 years now. You've seen all the ups and downs. You've seen Graham's rise through Rogan and Randall, and you guys have been observing that the entire time. What are your, maybe Graham, you go first, mate. What's the most mind blowing thing about the last 12 years, or what comes to mind when I say, from 12 years ago to now? What are your thoughts? How have you changed? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that to be honest with you, the main thing is that it's realizing that, like, for example, I played D&D when I was young in the 80s, right? Dungeons and Dragons. And I mean, I thought it was just all fantasy. Now when I grow up and do podcasts, realizing like half this shit is real, you know, magic, possibly dragons, dwarfs, giants, hobbits, you know, it's pretty unbelievable. So learning about magic is probably one of the most interesting things for me, like
Mm,
learning how real magic is and how far back it goes and how in a lot of ways accurate some of the pop culture stuff is about it, about magic. But recently what's been blowing my mind is how frustrating it's getting in the pop culture politic world, like in the Grimerica
mm,
outlawed world, for example. It's just like it's like the baby gets thrown out with the bathwater all the time. Like there's just people that are either just like for example, there's arguments about Randall and Graham
mm,
going on. There's people pushing back that think it's a completely different timeline, which I appreciate. There's
mm,
these different timelines, but they think that the cataclysm happened in 2200 BC, and but they accuse Randall and Graham of being controlled opposition or by
mm,
about lying to people, right? So there's
mm,
that part of it. So there's the timeline argument that's happening on the alternative conspiracy side, but then also on the more political conspiracy side. I mean, like it's just all doom and gloom, and
mm,
everything is a conspiracy. So I'm almost getting worn out from the pop culture conspiracy side. Like everything, they just people are just upset at everything. Like for
mm.
example, just RFK in the White House. It's just nothing's happening fast enough for anybody, right?
No.
And it's like, well, we've been through some pretty big changes in the Western world, and I'm pretty happy with how things are going in a lot of ways. So I'm
Mm,
trying to really stay positive about things. But that's one of the things that's blowing me away is how quickly and how deeply conspiracies have been weaponized now
mm,
against change.
mm, mm. What about you, Darren? I'll address that. Yeah. What about you, man?
Lately, I don't know. I mean, lately it seems
Well, he did say 12 years too, so you could
over 12
go
years.
back.
Well, for 12 years, it's kind of crazy to look back on some of the people we got to interview and all that stuff. But I mean, from like a worldview sort of standpoint, I would have to say, actually, if I would have to pick one thing over how one thing over the course of the 12 years that has blew me away was just how fucking close to tyranny we are at any given moment in Western
It's
society. I really,
1984. It's 1984. It is
yeah, you
1984.
really were
Yeah.
taken for granted that that there was the West was free for a long time. And, I mean, you start chipping away at that a little bit, but it's really COVID that's really like, whoa, this is there's some sort of because up until COVID, it was a conspiracy theory. I mean, we were crazy when we said there's a one world. They're like, there's gonna be a one. There's already a one world government.
Hmm.
Fucking, it's
Yeah. New World
going.
Order, all that stuff was all conspiracy. Yeah. Yeah.
And worldwide vaccines were all conspiracy, and all this stuff was conspiracy. And then COVID happened, and now it's not. To the point where when the stuff is happening, you're having conversations among yourself. It's like they're not just doing this now. This must just be the trial run. It
Yeah.
seems rushed.
Yeah.
It's got to be the trial run for because we've been, saying on the show since 2014 that they were gonna start fucking vaccinating everyone and they were gonna
Hmm.
force it. It's gonna be
Hmm.
mandatory adult vaccinations to travel and all this stuff. And then COVID happened. And it's
Okay.
just like
Mm,
and the worst part of it, it was that despite the government's best efforts, the the worst of COVID was not. I mean, Australia is a special example because your government went fucking crazy.
mm,
But for the most part, our government talked a big game. All the enforcement was in the fucking supermarket aisles from like other people. You know what I mean?
mm,
It was always like outside of some rare examples where shit got crazy. And I'm not giving the government a pass here. I mean, they're the ones who made the rules and got everyone all riled up.
mm,
But the takeaway from this has to be how fucking easily the mob can get riled up and
mm,
what they get riled up about. So I mean, I came out with it with the same fucking outlook as the Illuminati. I'm surrounded by a bunch of useless eaters, and I have to be concerned at all times about where they're at. I'm
Yeah,
living inside a mob that I don't agree with, and they're never
yeah.
going to agree with. And I live in one of the freest jurisdictions on earth where
Hmm.
I'm probably, luckily, people agree with me here on some things, more things than other. But even here, I gotta, eat my crow all the time. It's
Hmm.
just like there's just like, you know, I'm an
Yeah,
Indian too, so that
yeah,
I'm crossing streams and
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. You've got multiple things going on there.
but
Yeah.
I just all that to say,
Well, look, boy. Yeah, I think. Look, what I'd love to do is I'd love to come on the Outlawed show, and we can have a good discussion about Australia and COVID and stuff like that. We can dive deep into the rabbit hole because I was definitely against everything. I did not get vaccinated. I was never going. That was never going to happen. And I got deleted in 2022 for spreading truth. So I would love to come on and share the Aussie perspective because they did go nuts down here, and they
yours was
still
the
are.
one place outside of like China and stuff where I mean there was boots in the street,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
like you
They
have
had
maybe in
helicopter.
Ontario
They had
some of that, but
helicopter.
like
They fenced off in places in Sydney. This is not a, and people don't remember this. Well, they choose to forget it. They had fenced off places in Western Sydney, and there was helicopters in the air telling people to stay inside. That is not a joke. That was happening. Okay, that was not a joke. I saw an old bloke in his 60s or 70s get thrown to the ground, handcuffed, and frog marched because he wasn't wearing a mask. Now the poor bloke, he was 70 in the shade. He needed to breathe, you know, for not being. And look, I wrote a poem, boys, which I might, if I on the Outlawed show, I might share it with you. And the first stanza is, as I look around at the people I see, I can't help but wonder who would have hung me from a tree because it's not
oh,
zero.
they would have hung you. They would have fucking hung you, man. I'm telling you, like
Absolutely.
we were having the conversation here, actually having the conversation.
Hmm.
Like in a few more months, they're gonna throw us in camps.
Yeah.
And I'm
They,
not talking the
hey,
government. And
hey,
the
hey, hey,
government's
they
gonna do
built the
whatever
camps,
they were
man.
doing them here. They were
They
doing them
built
there. I
they
understand that.
built the camps down here.
And but the government, so I'd be my curious take. We can get that. We'll get into all that stuff on the outlawed. Was
Mhm.
who was driving it? Because I mean, the worst part about the experience for me is that it was all everyone was just all in. It was just like it might have been top down, but the civilians were more than happy to
It
fuck.
was unbelievable how many people just all of a sudden walk lockstep. It was very, very scary. And like, and we
So I
don't
mean, you
have
add some dead kids to that scenario, like a
exactly.
couple fucking weeks in a row, and you can see how easily the public can be
You
weaponized
you
against
had a you had
anything.
a you put. I mean, if it, what did we say? 0.2% mortality rate, right? You say that's 4%, 5%, and as you say, if the children get involved, yeah, I
And
can.
that's just an easy one. And they
Mm-hmm.
managed to get the public to just hate each other over that. So just can you imagine if they just need us to hate some Chinamen or something like that? How
Hmm.
easy, it's just like,
But I wonder. Look, I think, yeah, I'd love to come on the Outlawed and get deep in the weeds on this because it
Oh
is
yeah,
it is it's. I was at the front lines, and I think
it's
I was at the
it's
front lines
absolutely
down here.
fascinating
Mm,
that
mm,
when we meet people like you that were we have these commonalities and ancient mysteries and stuff, and you never know where we land sort of politically or
mm,
or under tyranny wise, and it's just fascinating to find out that it's very very similar.
hmm. Oh, we were on
oh,
the
yeah,
front line.
because
We were on the front line.
up until like, dude, up until like 2019, I was still operating under the assumption that if you could just give the basic fucking facts to people, that there was some hope for it. It's
Yeah.
just that most people didn't realize this kind of stuff. And then, but after that, I was just like, oh no, man, there's like these
I mean,
people that talk about the masses being
mm,
this other beast that has to be wrestled with. This
mm,
is a whole different thing. I mean, the elites are only half of your problem. They're
mhm.
only half the problem because if you clean them out, the masses are coming for you.
Absolutely.
It's like
Yeah.
it's this weird thing where I mean, I don't know. It might be a symptom of, or not a symptom, but a consequence of democracy. I
It
kind of
could
go
be.
back.
It could be. Look, as I say, I would love to get deep in the weeds with you guys because we can talk about this stuff now. Yeah. Like I said, unlocking the code back in 2022, I think I think I had over 50,000 downloads that year. Like the podcast was doing this, and I continued to try and spread truth, and just cancelled. And I'm still shadow banned on Facebook. I'm still shadow banned on Instagram. My posts go nowhere. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyone, even if I have awesome guests like you who have the ability and the outreach to share, if you shared the post when we do shows together, it'd be an excellent test. It'll go nowhere. It'll go nowhere. You won't get visual. You won't see it because I'm still shadow banned here at UTC. And again, everything I said back then was true, right? Everything. I didn't want it to be true. This is the other thing too. I don't think that a lot of people like. Do you think we wanted to be true about the stuff that we were saying? We didn't want to be true because if it's true, it's bloody scary, and it is. We are literally under and have been under control for the last 200 years. This plan. I think what broke my mind, guys, I think it was the end of 22. And I was sitting up here in the studio and I had an epiphany. I'm like, oh no, World War One. Oh, Spanish flu. Oh, 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 crap. This has been the plan for 150 years. This is, you know what I mean? And maybe even longer than that, right? I've
Yeah,
actually got.
you'd never convince me that they didn't know America was here when they came here.
Same with Australia. Same with Australia. We've got these massive, coming back to we've got these massive churches, right? Unbelievably Gothic style cathedrals, massive stone buildings in all of our city centres. And technically, when they were built, the entire population of Australia, now remember, Australia, Texas is like would fit 3 times or 4 times inside Australia, right? Like this, that's how massive Australia is. The entirety of the population of Australia was 30,000 people. And we built these massive churches and massive temples and massive, you know what I mean? Like, really? What? No. I'll send you boys a photo that I found a Masonic temple 4 hours north of here. It's massive with a church with the Templars in the windows, and there's nothing out there. It's like 4 hours from here. There's nothing out there. What, how, when, why? Like I think it's it's so fascinating. Yeah, look. Let's get me on the Outlawed, and we will dive deep. And you can ask me about what happened down here because there's things like I will never, ever, ever forget because I grew up in Victoria, right? So I live in Queensland now, but I grew up in Victoria and Melbourne, in Ballarat, and I will never, ever, ever forget watching the Victorian police open fire on their people. I'll never forget that. Yes, I don't care if it was rubber bullets. I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And sucker them in too. Suckered them in, took a knee, and then when the protesters moved forward, they stood up and just opened fire. Shot them in the back as they were running. Yeah, I'll never ever forget that. Over what, boys? Over what? Sorry, I get fired up about that.
That's what's so hard to see is that it's the what, right? It's the masks weren't working, the jobs we were right about everything, and yet it's like it just didn't matter.
Mhm.
It didn't matter that we were right about everything. It's just that was the hard part about it. It would be different if it was an argument, it was subjective, like
Yeah, that's right. It was bullshit the whole time, but that's the thing. It was But look,
Yeah.
let's I say let's go on the Outlawed, and I'd love to come on and let's deep dive into the Aussie stuff because it was even the stuff you guys saw over there. I'll blow your minds with some of the things that were going on.
yeah, for sure.
But what I want to come back, let's switch gears. I'm starting to get a bit fired up. Let's come back to magic because I think I feel probably is more the way to more the word that once upon a time we understood and can manipulate the elements in a way that we don't understand now, I think. And one of the actually talk about stuff that's blown my mind recently over the last couple of years. I did not realize they took ether off the periodic table. Ether is the thing that joins everything else together. Earth, air, fire, water, ether. Ether is the thing. Ether is the thing that's causing us to have this conversation. Our voices are traveling, we're in 3 separate spots. Our voices are traveling through the ether instantaneously across the planet to have this discussion. And and look, as far as dragons are concerned, draw me a dragon if you haven't seen one. And why do all dragons look the same? And why is the only animal in the Chinese zodiac that isn't real a dragon?
I just read that
Hmm.
like 2 to 3 days ago, 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like every other animal in the Chinese zodiac is real, not the dragon though.
And we find huge bones.
Yeah, I mean, and
Giant
don't
reptiles.
as you
Giant reptiles
yeah, giant
that flew.
reptiles exactly. And the other thing is too, draw me a dragon if you haven't seen one, and why do all dragons look the same regardless of continent, culture? Every dragon looks the same. So draw me one if you haven't seen one. And why is there stories that go back through ancient myths about dragons? Where did they come from? You know, are the
All over the
dwarf all over the world? Exactly. And I see it was years ago now because it's so hard. I mean, and and the political stuff, and I think AI is playing a massive role because you can't trust anything you see now. Like you can't. You got to question anything you see online now. However, many moons, like I said, just because, well, see, my background, boys, was in radio. So I did radio in the late 90s. And so that's when it's like, oh, I could do a podcast. I used to do radio, and then it was, as I say, inspiration from gentlemen like yourself, and it's like, yeah, let's do it. However, I've been into this stuff my whole life, like this esoteric alternative. I saw a UFO or UAP when I was like 14, and that was, that has governed my existence since then. I've been into that as well, which is actually where I'm going. I'm going to the biggest UFO festival in Australia in a couple of weeks and presenting some information about ancient history and anti-gravity. So yeah, we could dive down that rabbit hole at some point as well. Oh, I lost my bloody train of thought there. Podcasting 101. Too many thoughts in your head. You boys know. It's always good talking to other podcasters because you guys
Yeah.
know. You've got to
I can't even bring you back. I can't even bring you back because
yeah, what were we
lost
talking
it
about?
too.
I know we got what were we talking about? Dragons, magic.
Magic.
Right. Magic, dragons, yeah. Back in the 90s, I saw a documentary where in the Swiss Alps they were researching, like I remember it was like a beta tape. We had to use a different video player because remember that back then that it was regional. You couldn't play the videos from America, couldn't play in Australia. But my mate's dad used to fix electronics. Remember when you used to get your electronics fixed, because we're getting old now. And he had a European video player and we found this documentary, we watched it, and it was from Sweden. And they were going through Sweden because they kept finding fireweed, burnt out fireweed on the mountaintops of the Swiss Alps and these massive scratch marks. And like that's prior to a lot of people doing this for clicks and stuff. That's prior to the internet, it's prior to everything else. They were just following a rabbit hole. And basically they were concluding that the dragons still exist there somewhere, you know? And I think if you've got a dinosaur that flies, could it survive cataclysms? I think so. You know what I mean? If you can, well, I worked in Papua New Guinea for a while. There's stories up in Papua New Guinea of pterodactyls in the highlands through PNG as well. I mean, I don't think, and then you go to India and there's the glyphs of the guys riding triceratopses, the stegosaurus glyphs and all that sort of stuff. It's like, and as far as the political stuff is concerned, Graham, because I know we're coming to the end of our time, I had a bit of honestly, man, I came into this alternative history, esoteric, trying to figure out what the pyramids are and all that sort of. I really came in with rose-colored glasses. I thought we're all here in this together, and it's going to be a brotherhood, and we're going to look after each other and look out for each other, and we're going to just trying to push it all forward. And no, that's not what it is. And it is, like it is, and we've made an excellent connection today, and we'll continue to share research. And for a lot of us, it is that. But there just does seem to be that us versus them stuff, and people will take your research. And I've had some people down here. I've done tests, right? So there's some certain people down here, and I'm not going to give them any airtime, Because if I say, hey, I'm going to interview this or I'm going to talk about this, within 24 hours, they've released something about it. And it's like, that's not,
Oh,
that's not cool. You know what I mean? There's no need for that sort of business, like,
yeah.
and why is it not D all the above? Why is it not multiple cataclysms? Why is it not we've been here? Well, actually, with Loomis, we're doing a What Are Humans series, and we're contemplating how old humans actually are. What if we've been here for 1,000,000 years or more? And what if we've gone to the top half a dozen times? What if, one of the things I've thought about, you've got some of the temples are on the axis and they're actually 23 degrees off, so they're not lined up. Did those temples exist before the Earth was on its tilt? And how long ago was that? Like it's but yeah, it's not rose-colored glasses, man. Like we seem to. It comes back to the COVID stuff. Like people want to pick teams, and they, what about Team Human? Because I believe, and I wonder whether you guys feel the same way, that this civilization that we're researching, these echoes and things that we're looking at, I think number one, it was truly global. Because I've got a list. I've got my own list on this presentation. Actually, I could do it quickly. It's everywhere. If you think about the amount of sites that are actually on the world, around the world. Oh, sorry about that. If I share this quickly, and you guys could probably add to this list. Well, actually, Easter Island's not on there. I'll put Easter Island on there, but that's I haven't. I need to add Easter Island there, but that's how many places we find megalith stuff. That's how much we find, and it's everywhere. So I think, we talk about color, culture, creed, religion. This civilization that came before us didn't care about that. I don't think they cared about that. I think they were truly global in nature. So do you guys think, just before we go, with the magic stuff, do you think we were downgraded? Do you think
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the whole purpose of that. I mean, that's why the final push from the CIA and they started figuring some of this occult shit out in the early 1900s too. Not necessarily figuring it out, but rediscovering it maybe themselves. And
Mm,
yeah, we've been. I mean, that's the final downgrade is the last 100 years, right? Just make
yeah.
sure we don't have autonomy. We don't know that our thoughts are things
Mm,
that we can sort of like where focus goes, energy flows. Like that's basically what they. Well, they know that, and they're taking that away from us, or they're forcing us to focus on our black mirrors instead of ourselves, right? I think
mhm,
that's one of the key things. Yeah.
mm. And look, I mean, if you remember 2019 as well, I was so positive in 2019. I was happy. My career was going well. The podcast was, finding its way to go up. I was enjoying life. I was really happy. Can't have that, right? The vibration was rising. If you think about 2019, the global vibration was rising, and it was rising to a point where, like, yeah, we're cool. Let's get after it. Let's do it. And then, yeah. Um, well, gents, I know you boys have got some stuff to do. So, look, we bounced around and we didn't cover half of it. I didn't even show you guys the imprint, so maybe I can come on and show you guys some of the other Aussie research some deeper research, because the stuff that you guys saw in Sacred Site, it's gotten much deeper since then, and I can show you some more detailed photos and pictures as far as the megalith stuff is concerned. And yeah, I'd love to come on Outlawed and rant because
Yeah, for sure.
it's you've got no idea. Like, again, whatever you saw over there, it'd blow your mind as to what actually happened.
That's what it's for.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very, very much. This has been a pleasure and a privilege to have you guys on the show. It means a lot to me that you made time to chat to me today, and
Yeah, for sure.
I look forward to doing some more work with you guys. And you've got any final words for the coders down under?
Is your audience mostly Australia or is it mostly US?
Depends on the episode. Depends on the episode. It's
We
quite
get
funny.
no hometown love. We get no Canada love. It's like fourth on the list.
Yeah, look, Aussies are interesting. UTC has been pretty much global from the start. It's been so curious that I've had listeners in Sweden the entire time. I don't know who my Swedish listeners are because I've asked them to reach out a few times. Like, hey, listen, reach out. Like, you guys have been listening for years. Um, but it depends on the episode. However, no, US is very popular, and then Europe. Yeah, it's sort of US, Australia, Europe is how it goes, as far as my listeners are concerned. But yeah, with rebuilding the studio and stuff, I'm ramping back up again, and this is all part of the process. So yeah,
Excellent. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Australia, that seems great. I mean, it's on the list of livable societies on Earth right now, and there's only like a half dozen. So,
mm.
I mean, the cities in Australia seem crazy. I'll say that, but the cities here are fucking crazy too.
Yeah,
And I
cities are
feel like
crazy. They're unnatural. Yeah,
I could slip into a lifestyle in Australia that is a lot more similar to the one I have here than I can in Europe and places like that, or all of South America.
you definitely
Hunt
could.
even just hunting. That's like Australia,
Mm,
the USA, and Canada. And
mm,
outside of that, I mean, find me another place where we can just go where everyone just gets to run around and hunt and
mm.
do that sort of
Yeah, well, I'm far west of Brisbane, so Brisbane is the capital city of Queensland, and I'm about an hour and a half west of Brisbane. So yeah, I've got about an acre of property. So
And
it,
sometimes it's like, yeah, you guys can make all the rules you want. Good luck enforcing them out
yeah,
around.
that's
Good
exactly yeah,
fucking luck.
yeah.
Until you have fleets of drones,
Yeah, come and
and
find
then
us.
yeah.
What about you, Graham? Yeah, no, we're going to go, mate. So,
I gotta go. I got a little emergency upstairs, so I gotta
all right,
run.
bud.
Maybe I'll chat with you soon.
Pleasure, mate. Thank
Later.
you. Cheers, bud. Oh, good, Darren. Well, thank you
Okay.
very much, man. I know you got to get to the post office, and yeah, let's jump in again another day. Let's sort out a
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Graham's got your email, so we'll set
Mm.
something up. We could probably do both shows, honestly. We
Yeah,
could
let's do it.
probably,
Look, I think let's separate them because I think
yeah.
I'd love to
That we
share
don't do
yours, the
COVID.
Aussie
We
region.
don't talk COVID on Grimerica anymore because
No,
you know
no, that's
we
fair
just go
enough.
through these things that cost us money.
Mm,
We make a living at this, so it's like
exactly, man. Yeah.
money. COVID costs us money. It's like we just gotta, but we don't want to shut the fuck up, so we just find other avenues that don't ostracize our.
Yeah, so let's separate it. Have me on the Outlawed show, and we'll go deep into the dark hole because I think you guys will be shocked at some of the stuff that did actually take place. And I think I would like to do a swap cast. I'd use that as maybe if I could, I'd use that for down here as a reminder for the people down here because the cognitive dissonance has been unbelievable, Darren. The cognitive dissonance
Yeah,
is unbelievable. And then I'd love to share the rest of the Aussie research, the Glyph stuff as well on Grimerica, and we don't have to talk about that other stuff.
totally. Yeah, so hopefully people can go to gramerica.ca and check it out.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then,
Go and see
I mean,
Grimerica.
we have a ton of great audiobooks too at Adult
Yeah,
Brain.
actually, yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to ask you, mate. Talk to me about the audiobooks before we run away today.
Well, we got 189 of them on Audible and Spotify now. If you just search Adult Brain Publishing, they'll come up. There's a ton of them. You can also get them in podcast form. You can get a lot of them for free on YouTube. I mean, we just try and get a lot of it out there. But some of the best esoteric, I mean, all the Ignatius Donnelly stuff at Ragnarok and Atlantis. There's a bunch of Atlantis books and
Wow.
Napoleon Hill stuff, all of Blavatsky stuff, and
Mhm.
Manly P. Hall. Charles
Wow.
Fort. Charles Fort probably resonates maybe with
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
the audience. We got all his stuff. And I just had a new book come out too. People can check that out if they want. It's called Unlearned.
Unlearned. Well, please send me the links, mate. Ask Graham to send me all the links to the show. I've got one episode. I've got one in the bag, and then this one will be next. Yeah, because I will actually with the UFO stuff. Well, people will have already heard it. However, I've got some really cool people that do some research they're very esoteric. They don't want to come on the show, but they do some research and send it my way. And they found UFO reports from the 1960s here in Australia, and we're going through those and reading those just to see what it was like. So yeah, we're doing some of that stuff as well. But mate, listen, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on, man. And thank you very much for your insight. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, man. Have a good day. I guess you're just getting started.
Yeah, I'm just getting started, man. Thanks very much, guys. Talk soon.
Okay.